6 days before his 18th birthday, my grandson said the best gift I could give him was my death. He expected a luxury car and a fortune. Instead, I handed him one envelope. And by morning, our entire family had begun to collapse. 6 days before Caleb Mercer turned 18, he looked across his grandmother's kitchen and said, "The best birthday gift you could give me is to be gone. Then Mom can divide everything, and I can finally get the car I want." He did not whisper it in anger. He did not say it during an argument. He said it while scrolling through pictures of electric SUVs with syrup on his thumb and boredom in his voice. By the next morning, Evelyn Brooks had canceled the $45,000 gift he expected, frozen every payment keeping his parents afloat, and begun removing the entire family from her estate. They were pretending concern while counting money they believed would become theirs when she died. And the envelope Evelyn later placed in front of Caleb at his birthday dinner would leave all three of them speechless. Welcome to When Family Breaks One. Family betrayal rarely begins with one cruel sentence. It begins earlier, in repeated rescues and the belief that love must prove itself by paying. If stories about loyalty, dignity, and hidden family wounds matter to you, subscribe to the channel. Your support helps me continue bringing you stories worth hearing. Evelyn was 68, a retired school administrator who had spent her life solving problems before anyone else noticed them. She had been married to Daniel Brooks for 43 years, and 4 years after his death, she still reached for his coffee mug before remembering she lived alone. That Saturday, she was making cinnamon French toast because Caleb had loved it since he was 7. Butter hissed in the skillet. Brown sugar melted into the bread. The old wall clock above the pantry ticked steadily. Caleb sat at the island, swiping through pictures of a midnight blue electric SUV. Evelyn's hand froze around the spatula. "What did you just say?" Caleb sighed as if she were slowing down a conversation he had already finished. "I said it would be easier for everyone if you were gone. Not in a mean way, Grandma. I'm being realistic." The bread slipped from the spatula and landed crooked in the pan. "Not in a mean way? You're almost 70. You live by yourself in a huge house. Mom says you'll need help soon. And Dad says it doesn't make sense for all that money to sit there while the rest of us are struggling. Sometimes pain does not arrive as tears. It arrives as silence, while someone avoids your eyes and turns your life into a financial calculation." Evelyn switched off the burner. "What money do you think is sitting there?" "The house, Grandpa's insurance, your retirement accounts." "Dad says it's probably more than $2 million. Grant had not guessed that number alone. The family had discussed it. "And what happens to all of it?" "Mom gets it, then we split things. I'm not asking for everything. I just want the car. It's only $45,000 if we put enough down." "You already have a car?" "The Honda?" He laughed. "Grandma, that thing is embarrassing." The Honda had cost Evelyn $21,000 less than a year earlier. Caleb had hugged her when she handed him the keys. Now he spoke about it as if she had failed him. That is how entitlement grows, through repeated rescue, bills quietly paid, and consequences repeatedly removed. Eventually, gratitude hardens into expectation, and only the demand remains. For nearly 6 years, Evelyn had transferred $6,500 every month to her daughter Rachel and Rachel's husband, Grant. It started when Grant's contracting business lost a client. Then came private school tuition, medical bills, property taxes, car repairs, and another business loan. Evelyn had helped with their down payment and paid off Grant's debt twice. Every emergency was temporary. None of the payments stopped. Daniel had warned her during the last year of his life. They were sitting beneath the pear trees they had planted when Rachel was 12. "Help them stand, Evie," Daniel had said. "But don't carry them so long that they forget they have legs." At the time, Evelyn thought illness had made him impatient. Now his words returned with painful clarity. Caleb kept scrolling. "Mom found a place for you. Assisted living. It has activities. Once the house is sold, nobody has to worry anymore." "Nobody?" "You know what I mean." Evelyn reached for her phone beside the fruit bowl. After a contractor once denied making a promise, she had learned to activate a voice memo with 2 taps. She pressed record. "Caleb, are you saying my death would be a good birthday present?" He rolled his eyes. "When you say it like that, it sounds terrible. How should I say it? You've already had your life. I'm starting mine. If the money is coming to us eventually, why wait until there's less of it?" The recording timer moved silently. Evelyn looked at the boys she had taken to ball games, emergency rooms, and Daniel's grave. She searched his face for shame. She found impatience. Do your parents talk about this often? All the time? Dad says we need a plan before you start giving money away or get confused and sign something stupid. There it was. Not merely greed. Preparation. Caleb turned his phone toward her. So can we talk about the down payment now? No, Evelyn said. Not today. He pushed away from the island. Whatever. I knew you'd make this dramatic. He left his plate on the counter and drove away in the Honda she had bought him. Evelyn stood alone until burned sugar filled the room. Then she opened a family photo album. Birthdays, graduations, Christmas mornings, beach trips, Caleb holding new electronics, Rachel standing before the house Evelyn had helped buy, Grant raising a glass on a vacation Evelyn had financed. In nearly every photograph, Evelyn was reaching toward them. They were reaching toward what she had brought. She carried Daniel's old financial ledger to the table and wrote, "Today my grandson described my death as a financial opportunity." Before the ink dried, her phone rang. Rachel. "Hi, Mom," she said in the careful voice she used when she wanted something. "Did you sign those emergency forms Grant emailed you?" "What forms?" A pause. "The beneficiary and authorization papers." "Nothing serious. They just let us help if you become temporarily unable to manage things." Evelyn opened her email. 7 documents waited. One named Grant as the person authorized to manage her accounts. Another allowed him to sell property. A third contained a phrase Evelyn read 3 times. "In the event of cognitive impairment or diminished decision-making capacity." "Mom?" Rachel asked. "Are you still there?" Evelyn looked at the burned breakfast, Daniel's empty chair, and the phone containing Caleb's recorded voice. "Yes," she said, "I'm here." But for the first time in years, she understood that her family had been preparing for a future in which she was not. That was the moment Evelyn stopped seeing the documents as paperwork and started seeing them as a map of what her family intended to do. She did not answer Rachel immediately. Instead, she opened the first attachment again and read every line with the same discipline she once used when reviewing school contracts. Grant was listed as primary agent. Rachel was listed as backup. The language gave them authority to manage investments, access banking records, sell property, and make decisions if Evelyn was judged unable to act for herself. The documents were polished and made to look routine. Yellow arrows pointed toward the signature lines. A short note from Grant said, "Just sign where indicated." We already had someone look this over. That sentence frightened her more than the legal language. Someone had already looked it over. Someone had prepared a plan. And everyone involved seemed to believe Evelyn's role was simply to sign. "Rachel," she said carefully, "why would Grant need authority to sell my house?" There was a pause long enough for Evelyn to hear traffic moving behind her daughter's voice. "It's only for emergencies, Mom. You're reading too much into it. Whose emergency? You know what I mean. If you fell or got confused or couldn't handle everything for a while." Evelyn felt something tighten in her chest. "When have I been confused?" Rachel exhaled sharply. "You forgot my dentist appointment last month. You changed it and never told me. You asked me the same question twice at dinner because you avoided answering it the first time. Mom, this is exactly what I mean. You're getting defensive." I have always found that sentence revealing. When people cannot prove you are confused, they may try to prove you are emotional. Once your reaction becomes the problem, their behavior no longer has to be explained. Evelyn kept her voice steady. "Has Grant discussed my memory with anyone else?" Another pause. "We're just trying to protect you." "That wasn't my question." Rachel ended the call with a promise to explain everything later. Evelyn did not wait. She called her doctor's office and asked whether anyone had contacted them about her health. The receptionist hesitated, then confirmed that Grant had called twice. He had described Evelyn as forgetful and increasingly unable to manage financial decisions. He had also requested permission to attend her next appointment. Evelyn wrote down the dates. One call had been made the morning after she refused to co-sign another business loan. The second came 2 days after she told Rachel she might reduce the monthly payments. The pattern was so clear that Evelyn wondered how she had missed it. But that is one of the cruelest parts of family manipulation. The signs often appear separately. A concerned phone call. a suggestion about safety, a joke about memory. A document described as routine. Only when those pieces are placed beside one another does concern begin to look like control. That afternoon, Evelyn drove to Rachel and Grant's house with Caleb's college insurance forms on the passenger seat. She needed a reason to visit, though she no longer needed a reason to be suspicious. Their garage door was open. Rachel's car sat in the driveway. Evelyn entered through the side door and heard voices below her, coming from Grant's basement office. She should have called out. Instead, she stopped on the landing. Grant was speaking first. "We need her to sign before she starts asking more questions," Rachel answered in a low voice. "She already is. Then we move faster. If we get the financial authority in place, the rest becomes easier." Evelyn's fingers went cold. She opened the recorder on her phone and held it close to her coat. Caleb's voice followed. "What about my birthday money?" "You'll get something," Grant said. "But the bigger issue is the estate," Rachel asked. "What if she refuses to sell the house? Then we document why living alone is unsafe." Missed appointments, repeated questions, trouble with online banking. We don't need one dramatic incident. We need a pattern. Every example he listed was either exaggerated or manufactured. Grant continued. "Once a doctor starts recording concerns, we can petition for more control if necessary. Not tomorrow, not recklessly. We do this carefully." Rachel's voice trembled, but not with guilt. "I don't want her giving everything away. She keeps talking about charities and Daniel's hospice. That's exactly why we can't wait." Then Caleb said something Evelyn would remember. "So how soon can we actually use the money?" No one corrected him. No one told him that Evelyn was alive, capable, and entitled to decide how she spent her remaining years. Grant estimated that Evelyn's house, investments, and insurance money totaled nearly $2.5 million. Rachel worried long-term care would consume too much. Caleb asked whether there would still be enough for his car and college. What none of them knew was that Evelyn had approximately $720,000 left, plus the house. The rest had not disappeared through carelessness. It had gone to them. It had paid their mortgage when Grant's business slowed. It had covered private school, vacations, medical bills, credit cards, and the second car Rachel insisted she needed. For years, Evelyn had hidden the cost of her generosity because she did not want them to feel ashamed. Now they mistook her silence for abundance. Sitting in her car, Evelyn expected to cry. She did not. Some pain breaks you open. Other pain closes every door through which excuses once entered. For years, she had translated selfishness into stress, pressure into concern, and entitlement into need. Now the translation stopped. The next morning, Evelyn called Rachel. "I met with my financial advisor," she said. "He believes I've been spending too much." Rachel's tone changed immediately. "How much too much?" "He recommends reducing the monthly support from $6,500 to $1,500. He also thinks I should delay Caleb's gift and consider selling the house." Rachel did not ask whether Evelyn was frightened. She said, "$1,500 won't cover our mortgage." Grant called 40 minutes later and offered to review Evelyn's accounts to protect her. Caleb called that afternoon and asked one question. "Am I still getting the car money?" By sunset, Evelyn had her answer. Not one of them had asked whether she would be secure. Not one offered help. Their concern appeared when access was threatened. That evening, she called Samuel Price, the advisor who had known her and Daniel for 15 years. "How quickly can I change everything?" she asked. Samuel was silent for a moment. "Your accounts can be protected quickly," he said. "Your estate can be rewritten. But if they are building a case that you are not competent, paperwork alone may not be enough. What do I need? Independent proof. Medical, legal, financial. Clear enough that no court, agency, or relative can misunderstand it." Evelyn looked through the window at the pear trees Daniel had planted. For the first time since his death, she did not ask herself what Daniel would have done. She asked what she was finally willing to do for herself without apology. "Set the meetings," she said. "I'm ready, before it is too late." By 9 o'clock the next morning, Evelyn had stopped reacting to what her family planned and started building something stronger than fear, a record they could not erase. Samuel Price was waiting when she arrived at his office. He had known Evelyn and Daniel for 15 years. He listened to Caleb talk about the car, to Grant discuss building a pattern, and to Rachel worry that Evelyn might give money to charity before they could control it. When the final recording ended, Samuel removed his glasses and set them carefully on the desk. "I'm sorry," he said. Evelyn nodded, but sympathy was not what she had come for. "What do we do first?" Samuel introduced her to Naomi Reed, an estate attorney whose calm manner made every complicated issue sound manageable. Naomi did not tell Evelyn what decision to make. She explained the consequences of each choice, asked whether Evelyn understood them, and then asked the most important question of all. "Is this what you want, or is this what fear is making you do?" Evelyn looked at the copy of the unsigned power of attorney forms Grant had sent. "For years, fear made me keep paying them," she said. "This is the first decision I've made without it." Naomi revoked every previous authorization Evelyn had signed. She prepared notices for the bank, investment firm, insurance company, and medical providers stating that neither Rachel nor Grant had authority to act on Evelyn's behalf. She also created a new living trust designed to pay only for Evelyn's housing, healthcare, daily needs, and personal choices. If Evelyn ever became unable to manage her affairs, an independent fiduciary, not a relative, would step in. In families where money and care become entangled, the safest person is not always the closest person. Blood can create responsibility, but it does not automatically create good judgment. Naomi also recommended a capacity evaluation, not because she doubted Evelyn, but because the family had already begun creating a story about her mind. A written evaluation, dated before any public confrontation, would make that story much harder to sell. Dr. Helen Shaw met Evelyn the following afternoon. Dr. Shaw asked her to recall names, repeat sequences, explain recent financial decisions, compare risks, interpret documents, and describe what would happen if she changed her will. Evelyn answered. When she did not know something, she said so. She did not perform confidence. She demonstrated understanding. At one point, Dr. Shaw asked, "Why are you removing your daughter and grandson from your estate?" Evelyn's throat tightened. "Because they are trying to take control of me while I'm still capable of saying no. Are you doing this to punish them?" "No," Evelyn said. "I'm doing it because they have confused access with love, and I can't afford to let that confusion decide the rest of my life." Dr. Shaw held her gaze for several seconds, then wrote something in the file. The report she completed stated that Evelyn was fully oriented, capable of understanding complex financial and legal matters, and able to make independent decisions about her property and care. When Evelyn read it, she felt an unexpected sadness. She had spent years proving her love by giving. Now she had to prove her sanity because she had decided to stop. The new estate plan was completed 2 days later. Rachel, Grant, and Caleb were removed as beneficiaries. Evelyn did not leave the money unassigned. She directed portions of the trust to a scholarship program for students being raised by grandparents, a women's shelter, the hospice organization that had cared for Daniel, and a community meal program where she had once volunteered. The choice brought her peace. She was not destroying Daniel's legacy. She was returning it to the values they had shared before guilt and dependence distorted everything. Samuel then helped her close the financial pipeline that had supported Rachel's household for years. The monthly transfer was canceled. Grant's supplementary credit card was deactivated. Automatic property tax payments ended. The family vacation Evelyn had agreed to fund was withdrawn. The $45,000 birthday gift disappeared before Caleb ever knew it had been arranged. Instead, she felt grief. The payments had been unhealthy, but they were also rituals. Every transfer allowed her to believe she remained necessary. Ending them meant accepting that usefulness had become the foundation of her place in the family. That is one of the hardest truths in stories like this. Exploitation does not survive only because someone takes. It can also survive because the giver is terrified of what will remain when the giving stops. Evelyn went home that evening and sat in Daniel's workshop. Dust covered the edge of his workbench. A small cedar box he had made years earlier rested beneath a folded cloth. Inside were receipts, photographs, and a note Daniel had written during one of his hospital stays. "You are still Evelyn when nobody needs saving." She read the sentence twice. Then she cried, not because she regretted what she had done, but because Daniel had understood the trap before she did. The following days required patience. Evelyn behaved normally. She answered Rachel's calls, listened to Grant's polished suggestions, and allowed Caleb to believe his birthday celebration was proceeding as planned. Rachel interpreted Evelyn's calm as surrender. Grant mistook silence for confusion. Caleb mistook affection for a check. Then Rachel accidentally left a voicemail recording after she thought the call had ended. Grant's voice could be heard in the background. "Tell Caleb to be charming until she hands it over. After Friday, we can deal with the rest." Evelyn saved the message. She invited all three of them to dinner on Caleb's birthday. She planned roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, and chocolate cake, the foods he had requested since childhood. She placed Daniel's chair at the head of the table but left it empty. The birthday cake carried 4 words, "Welcome to adulthood, Caleb," in a drawer beside the dining room. Evelyn placed 3 folders. One contained the revoked legal authorizations. One contained the competency report and trust documents. The third held transcripts of the recordings. For Caleb, she prepared a separate envelope. Inside was a birthday card, a $1 check, a transcript of his statement, and a list of what she had paid for him over the years. She also included a letter explaining that adulthood was not the moment a person became entitled to someone else's sacrifice. It was the moment responsibility could no longer be postponed. At the bottom, she added a practical plan for work, college, saving, and transportation. Evelyn wanted him to understand that withdrawing money was not the same as withdrawing every possibility of growth. That distinction mattered to her. She was not trying to ruin Caleb's future. She was refusing to finance the version of him that believed her death should improve it. On Friday evening, the family arrived at 6. Rachel carried supermarket flowers. Grant brought the cake as though he had organized the celebration. Caleb entered wearing a new shirt and scanning the driveway, perhaps hoping the vehicle might be waiting outside. Dinner passed beneath a layer of forced warmth. After dessert plates were cleared, Caleb leaned back and smiled. "So, Grandma, should I pull up the car listing?" Evelyn reached into the drawer, removed the envelope, and placed it in front of him. "No," she said. "Tonight, you're receiving something more useful than a car." And as Caleb opened it, the first trace of certainty disappeared from his face. The moment Caleb saw the $1 check, the room changed from a birthday dinner into a reckoning none of them had prepared for. He held the paper between 2 fingers as if it were dirty. "What is this?" Evelyn folded her hands. "Exactly what it looks like." Caleb pulled the letter from the envelope and read. By the time he reached the transcript of his own words, the color had left his cheeks. Rachel leaned toward him. "What did she write?" Caleb pushed the pages across the table. Grant read faster. His eyes stopped at the sentence Evelyn had underlined. "Adulthood does not begin when you become entitled to someone else's sacrifice. It begins when responsibility can no longer be postponed." "This is cruel," Rachel said. Evelyn looked at her daughter. "No. Cruel was hearing my grandson describe my death as a financial opportunity. He is 17, Rachel snapped. He says stupid things. He repeated ideas he heard at home." Grant set the letter down. "Evelyn, you are upset, but turning this into public humiliation is not healthy." There it was again. The language of concern used to make her reaction seem more dangerous than their conduct. Evelyn reached into the drawer and removed the first folder. "I agree that something here is unhealthy," she said. "That is why the monthly transfer ended this morning." Rachel stared at her. "What transfer?" "The $6,500 I send you. The property tax payments are canceled. Grant's supplementary card is closed. The vacation deposit has been withdrawn. And there will be no $45,000 vehicle." The silence was complete. Caleb looked at his father. Rachel's mouth opened. Grant's fingers tightened around the table. "You cannot do that without warning us," Rachel said. Evelyn almost laughed because the sentence revealed how completely generosity had become obligation. "I just did. Our mortgage is due next week. Then you and Grant must decide how to pay it. You know his business is struggling. I know I have rescued that business twice." Grant leaned forward. "This is why we were concerned. You are making emotional decisions that could hurt the family." Evelyn opened the second folder. "My decisions were reviewed by an estate attorney, a financial advisor, and an independent geriatric psychiatrist. My assets are now in a protected trust for my health, housing, daily expenses, and personal choices. If I become unable to manage them, an independent fiduciary will act for me." Rachel's expression hardened. You chose a stranger over your daughter? I chose someone who does not benefit from my decline. Even Caleb looked away. Grant recovered first. A professional can still take advantage of you. Family is supposed to protect family. You are right, Evelyn said. Family should protect family. She pressed play on her phone. Grant's recorded voice filled the room. We need her to sign before she starts asking more questions. Then Rachel's voice followed. I don't want her giving everything away. Then Caleb's. So how soon can we use the money? Evelyn let the recording continue until Grant explained how to build a pattern of confusion from missed appointments, repeated questions, and banking trouble. Then she stopped it. Only Daniel's clock could be heard. Grant's confidence was gone. What remained was calculation under pressure. You recorded a private conversation in our home? I recorded a conversation about taking control of my life. That may not be legal. I gave everything to my attorney. She advised me on what could be preserved and used appropriately. I did not come here to debate the law. Evelyn's answer mattered. She was not pretending one rule applied everywhere. She had sought professional guidance before acting. Anger may reveal danger, but careful advice turns fear into protection. Rachel began to cry. We were worried about you. Evelyn felt the old instinct rise, the urge to soften, reassure, and take responsibility for everyone's pain. But compassion without boundaries can become permission. Were you worried when you discussed preserving the estate? Evelyn asked. When Grant called my doctor after I refused another loan? When Caleb asked how quickly he could use the money? Rachel covered her mouth. Caleb pushed back from the table. I was joking. You were clear. I didn't mean I wanted you dead. You meant you wanted the benefits of my death. His chair scraped the floor. This is insane. You are ruining my birthday over one sentence. No, Evelyn said. I am refusing to reward what that sentence revealed. Grant stood. Enough. We can discuss the financial arrangements tomorrow when everyone is calmer. There are no arrangements left to discuss. Evelyn opened the final folder. My previous will has been replaced. None of you is a beneficiary. Caleb stared at her. Rachel whispered, Who gets it? A scholarship fund for students raised by grandparents. The women's shelter. Daniel's hospice. A community meal program. Caleb's disbelief became anger. You cannot give away our money. Evelyn looked directly at him. The fact that you called it yours is exactly why you will never receive it. The words emptied the room of air. Grant asked how much remained. Evelyn told them. She did not have the fortune they imagined. After years of mortgage payments, tuition, vehicles, vacations, debts, and emergencies, she had about $720,000 left, plus the house. Rachel's first response was not gratitude. What happened to the rest? Evelyn felt something inside her settle. I gave it to you. Rachel lowered her eyes. That reaction told Evelyn more than an apology could have. Her daughter was not grieving the sacrifices. She was grieving the amount no longer available. Evelyn stood. I am telling you the conditions from now on. Do not contact my bank, doctor, attorney, or advisor. Do not come here without permission. Do not ask me for money. Any future relationship begins with accountability and counseling. Financial support will never resume. You are cutting off your family, Rachel said. No, I am stopping my family from cutting pieces off me. She opened the front door. Grant left first. Rachel followed. Caleb paused beside the envelope. For a moment, Evelyn saw the child he had been. She wanted him to apologize. Instead, he asked, Can I keep the $1? You can keep everything in the envelope. He walked out. By morning, Evelyn had 19 voicemails. Rachel called her heartless. Grant demanded the trust documents. Caleb posted that an elderly relative had destroyed his future. 2 cousins insisted family disputes should remain private. She answered none of them. At 11:30, a woman from Adult Protective Services called. A report claimed Evelyn was paranoid, financially confused, isolated, and being manipulated into giving away her estate. The accusation hurt differently from Caleb's words. His cruelty had been careless, but this was deliberate. Rachel and Grant were no longer merely defending themselves. They were trying to turn Evelyn's precautions into evidence against her. Still, she refused to panic. Panic was the version of her they needed. Documentation was the version they had failed to anticipate. The caseworker explained professionally that the agency had a duty to review credible concerns involving a vulnerable adult. Evelyn did not blame her. Systems designed to protect people must investigate reports, even when someone may be misusing the process. A home visit was scheduled for Monday. After the call, Evelyn placed Dr. Shaw's report, trust documents, bank records, emails, and transcripts across the dining room table. Then she called Naomi. They wanted an investigation, Evelyn said. Let's make sure the investigator sees everything. On Monday morning, Evelyn's dining table no longer looked like a place where a family had once shared meals. It looked like the place where the truth would speak for itself. The caseworker arrived at 10. Her name was Denise Harper, and she carried a folder, a tablet, and the expression of someone trained not to assume too quickly. Evelyn respected that. Systems designed to protect older adults cannot simply accept the first story they hear, even when that story comes from family. They have to ask questions, look for patterns, and separate genuine concern from control wearing a concerned face. Denise asked to speak with Evelyn alone. Evelyn agreed. She answered questions about her medications, bank accounts, daily routine, legal decisions, and future plans. She explained the trust, the independent fiduciary, and the reasons she had changed her will. She did not rush. She did not exaggerate. She did not try to make Rachel and Grant sound monstrous. She simply told the truth. Then she placed Dr. Shaw's competency report on the table, followed by the revoked authorizations, the emails urging her to sign, the records of Grant's calls to her doctor, and the transcripts of the recorded conversations. Denise read in silence. When she reached the part where Grant described building a pattern of confusion, her face changed. "Do you still have the original recordings?" she asked. "Yes." "Have these been reviewed by your attorney?" "Yes." "Do you feel physically unsafe?" "No," Evelyn said. "But I do not feel safe giving them access to my money, my medical care, or my decisions." That distinction mattered. Evelyn was not claiming danger she could not prove. She was naming the danger she could. Rachel and Grant arrived 20 minutes later, invited by the agency to respond. Rachel entered with swollen eyes. Grant wore a suit, as if professionalism could make his version more credible. He began by describing Evelyn as emotionally unstable after Daniel's death. Denise let him speak. Then she asked why he had contacted Evelyn's doctor after she refused to co-sign a business loan. Grant's answer became less polished. She asked why he had prepared documents allowing him to sell Evelyn's property. He called them standard precautions. She asked why he had discussed creating evidence of cognitive decline before any doctor had diagnosed it. The room went still. Rachel started crying again. This time, Evelyn did not mistake tears for innocence. Denise explained that Evelyn appeared informed, coherent, and capable of making her own decisions. She also explained that attempts to pressure an older adult for financial control could raise serious concerns about exploitation. She did not threaten them. She did not humiliate them. She placed responsibility where it belonged. Evelyn chose not to pursue criminal action at that time. "I want distance," she said. "I want my boundaries documented. I want the calls to stop." Denise noted the request. Naomi later added stronger protections to the estate plan, including a written explanation of Evelyn's decisions and a clause discouraging bad faith challenges. Naomi reminded her that laws and procedures could vary, but documentation, independent advice, and clear intent made a difference. For the first time in months, Evelyn slept through the night. The family's collapse did not happen dramatically. It happened through ordinary consequences. Rachel and Grant sold one of their cars. Grant closed the office he could no longer afford. Caleb took a part-time job at a grocery store after learning that no relative would replace the money Evelyn withdrew. Extended family members stopped calling once Samuel showed them, with Evelyn's permission, how much she had already contributed over the years. Evelyn did not celebrate any of it. Consequences are not always revenge. Sometimes they are simply what appears when rescue ends. 3 months later, Evelyn listed the house. Walking through it one last time was harder than confronting her family. The kitchen still held the faint mark from the skillet she had dropped. Daniel's workshop smelled like cedar and machine oil. In the backyard, the pear trees had begun to flower. She stood beneath them and remembered his warning. Help them stand. Do not carry them so long that they forget they have legs. "I finally understand," she whispered. She took the cedar box Daniel had made and left the rest behind. Her new home was smaller, with 2 bedrooms and a view of a lake. It belonged to an active adult community where no one knew her as Rachel's emergency fund or Caleb's future inheritance. They knew her as Evelyn. She met Marianne Cole in a book club. Marianne was a retired nurse with silver hair, sharp humor, and no interest in anyone's bank balance. They began taking walks, then day trips, then weekend drives to towns Evelyn had always meant to visit. Evelyn volunteered at Daniel's hospice. She joined a watercolor class. She hosted dinners where guests brought bread, stories, and nothing to be paid for. The first scholarship from her trust went to a young woman raised by her grandmother. At the ceremony, the students spoke about sacrifice without entitlement and love without ownership. Evelyn cried quietly. Her money had finally entered a place where gratitude did not need to be purchased. 7 months after the birthday dinner, a letter arrived from Caleb. It was handwritten. He did not mention a car, tuition, or inheritance. He wrote that he had repeated what he heard at home because greed was easier than thinking about what those words meant. He admitted that the grocery store job had taught him how long it took to earn what he once expected Evelyn to hand over in a moment. He apologized. Evelyn read the letter twice. Then she wrote back. An apology can open a door. It does not erase what happened on the other side of it. She did not promise forgiveness. She offered the possibility of a supervised conversation with a family counselor if Caleb was willing to listen without asking for anything. That was not weakness. It was a boundary with a door, not a wall without one. This is what I believe Evelyn's story teaches us. Generosity without limits can become a system that rewards dependence. Concern can be used as a disguise for control. And forgiveness does not require restoring access to the very things someone tried to take. Caleb once said the best gift would be for Evelyn to be gone. In one sense, she did disappear. The woman who believed she had to buy her place in the family was gone. The woman who remained understood that her life was not an inheritance waiting to happen. What would you have done in Evelyn's place? Would you have left the door open for Caleb? Or would that one sentence have closed it forever? Share your thoughts below and subscribe to When Family Breaks One for more stories about what happens when trust, money, and family loyalty collide. Evelyn's story was never only about an inheritance. It was about what happens when generosity is repeated so often that the people receiving it stop seeing the person behind the gift. Her family did not become entitled in a single day. Their dependence grew quietly, one rescued payment, one forgiven debt, and one avoided consequence at a time. Evelyn believed that helping them would preserve their closeness, but eventually, the money became the relationship. When she threatened to remove the money, their version of love disappeared with it. The deepest lesson here is not that we should stop helping the people we love. It is that love without boundaries can slowly become self-erasure. Healthy generosity should help someone become stronger, not make them permanently dependent. When support is treated as an obligation, gratitude is replaced by expectation. And when a person becomes angry because you have chosen to protect your own future, that anger may reveal what the relationship was truly built upon. Evelyn also teaches us that protecting ourselves does not make us cruel. She did not respond with violence, public humiliation, or reckless revenge. She documented what happened, sought independent medical, financial, and legal guidance, and made decisions while she was calm and capable. She allowed her family to experience the natural consequences of losing support they had never been entitled to demand. In our own lives, this lesson can begin with a few honest questions. Are we helping someone move forward, or are we repeatedly protecting them from responsibility? Do they care about our well-being, or only about what we provide? Can we say no without being threatened, insulted, or made to feel guilty? And have we clearly documented our wishes regarding our property, healthcare, and future decisions? We do not need to wait for a dramatic betrayal before setting boundaries. We can review our financial commitments, communicate limits clearly, keep important records, and seek qualified independent advice before signing documents we do not fully understand. Most importantly, we can remember that forgiveness does not require restoring unlimited access. A person may be given another chance to rebuild trust, but trust should be earned through consistent behavior rather than emotional promises. Evelyn did not lose her family when she stopped paying for them. She discovered which relationships could survive without a financial reward, and she finally understood that her life was not something others were entitled to divide. It was still hers to live. Do you believe Evelyn was right to leave the door open for Caleb? Please share your answer in the comments so everyone can learn from your perspective. And subscribe to When Family Breaks One to support the channel and help us continue creating more meaningful stories like this.